Hello, everyone. Welcome to Real Estate Right Now, where we talk about real estate matters that matter to you. We are live here from Linda Craft Team Studios here in Raleigh, North Carolina, part of the Greater Research Triangle Park. Today's show is one that should interest all of you, at least on some level, and that is this, that, you know, we have this settlement coming up, the NAR settlement, and a lot of people think it's just going to affect the real estate professionals. Well, that is true, but they're not the only people who are going to be affected, because sellers are going to be affected on some level. But who's really going to be affected is buyers are going to be really affected with this settlement. And we're not spending a lot of time talking about that. And there's a lot that still we don't know, but we're learning a lot as we go on. The first thing we know is we were supposed to have all this come into being here in about June, middle of June. It's now been kicked down to August before it actually is going to go into place. But we're starting to learn, as they're starting to sort the pieces out, that getting loans and getting money may be affected as a result of this settlement. Which means what? Well, if you're a buyer, does this mean that it's going to cost you more, cost you less, or is it everything going to be the same? So what we did was we brought back Kim Crump, who is a senior listing, and she hates the word senior. She's old. She's just been here a long time. Listing and buyers expert, and she does a lot of research and has done a lot of research and has been on a lot of calls in regard to this National Association of Realtors settlement. And so she brought to me and said, hey, let's talk about these loans and how this is going to affect buyers, because I don't think that they really understand what the potentially could happen. So again, a lot we don't know, but we're going to try to give you kind of a picture as we see it right now. Kim, welcome back.
Thank you. Thanks. Good to be here.
Nice to have you back. So talk to us about what you're hearing and learning in terms of buyers, the settlement, and money.
Sure.
Loan money. What is the first thing that stands out to you as you see this whole big picture?
So I see things changing on a daily basis.
Yeah.
And it's so new, and we knew this was going to happen.
Right.
Now, what I've discovered personally, when we were upping our game and redoing our presentation, our listing presentation and our buyer's presentation, so we can include all the new changes and updates that are coming, it dawned on me as I was going through all these numbers, we don't take a look. We've been so focused on seller, how this is really going to impact. Right. And, oh, I don't have to pay a buyer agent commission anymore. Oh, I don't have to do this. Well, we've always known that was true. Okay, I'm not going to go back to the same old.
Yeah, because we did a show on that.
Yeah, we've talked about that.
Yeah, we
before.
did a show on that. Yeah.
But what we do need to think about on a whole is, well, what is the affordability going to look like now, even more so for buyers?
Right.
So let's take. I took a look at all of Wake County for 2023, and we took a look at all the sales.
Right.
And within those sales of Wake County, you're looking at over 15,500 homes approximately, that was sold in 2023. And that was under that. Sorry, let me just clarify that was up to $1 million.
Okay.
So between $0 and $1 million.
How many zero houses did you find?
There was one house in Wake County under 200,000.
Really? Mm-hmm. Wow. Okay. All right. Which is about close to zero as we're going to get.
Right.
Okay.
So there you go. Now, within that number of homes that was sold, 74% of those homes were bought with a conventional loan.
Okay.
Okay.
Right.
So what does that mean? That means that people are putting down anywhere between 5 and 20%. There might be some other loan programs you could get for a little bit less, but still, they're putting down a lot of money in order to get a conventional loan, because conventional loans
a fixed 30-year
conventional loan,
maybe right, whatever. Okay.
Right. And it doesn't come along with a lot of the fees associated with an FHA review.
Sure.
Now, So 74%. So we see all these people having to bring a lot of cash. These people, most
Right.
buyers have saved up a lot of money
Right.
to go into maybe their first home, maybe their
Right.
second, whatever. But you're putting and you're investing a lot of money into a house to begin with. Okay, so that's your first.
Okay.
The second set of buyers that came along, 17% were cash.
Okay.
And
Right.
then after that, we have FHA and VA. Now, FHA is 3.5% down, VA is 100% financing. So the reason I'm bringing all of this up is because when you add another layer on top of this, which is, hey, if a seller is not going to pay a buyer agent commission,
Right.
is that buyer going to be able to afford to pay for that buyer agent on top of all the other expenses that they have? Because not only are you doing your down payment,
Right.
you're also closing costs. Your closing costs for a buyer are going to range anywhere between 2 and 6% of the loan value, the amount that you're borrowing.
And you're
So
saying that's buyer side.
this is all buyer side, right? So when you're looking at the amount of money that a buyer is spending already purchasing a home, and then you add another layer, it's like, well, Mr. Seller, do you understand, for a buyer, in order for a buyer to buy your home, they have to come out of pocket a lot of money to be able to afford to buy your home.
This is the dilemma. I was thinking about this morning when you and I were kind of talking about, this topic last night and this morning a little bit. I was thinking about this. Part of the NAR settlement, and now that the Department of Justice is involved, is that they, from the real estate side, they don't want any indication on the MLS system that there's any monies being paid, so that there's no knowledge. If you want to know if this house is being, if there's going to be a commission paid by the seller, you as the agent are going to have to call the seller's agent.
That is correct.
And you're going to have to go, is the seller paying commission? And by the way, this becomes an important question. And this is where I think that I don't want people to miss. If I'm a buyer, and I've had people who are buying homes say this to me, ask me about this in the settlement, and especially in Nebraska, by the way, which I'm from, and they don't have buyer's agency. They're adopting it now.
Sure. Which is a lot. That'd be a really tough environment to be in right now.
Yeah, they're struggling. I talked to realtors there; they're really struggling. But anyway, here's what some of the people who are buying homes have said to me from their perspective, and they said, I don't have the money to bring in to pay an agent, and nor do I really want to. Right?
Okay.
So I'm going to want to know, as a buyer, are they paying commission or am I? Because this is going to affect how much money I can borrow.
Correct. It's going to affect. And the other thing that buyers are also paying for is all the expenses when it comes to your inspections. There are just so many costs that go into purchasing a home. So yeah, if a buyer sees two different homes, and they're like, well, yeah, we like them, we like them both, but they're going to pay for my buyer agent's commission. They're probably going to go with that house.
Well, that's the thing that they were telling me. Was that, why would I, if I have a choice between two houses that are pretty close, and one is going to relieve me of having to pay anything, which keeps my loan amount down, and one is not, right? Because we have to disclose. Right. I mean, we are told that we have to disclose if we're getting any commission, whatever that might be.
Yes, it's the compensation.
Right. Compensation agreement. Right. So we have to disclose that to the buyer. The buyer then makes the decision. We don't make that decision. I think there's a misconception that believes that we are steering buyers to specific. We don't. The The
Not
buyer
at all.
makes our decisions for us.
The buyer, we are here to help through the transaction. We are not
Right.
there to make the decisions.
Right.
You can't make that decision for buyers. They make their choices. They make their decisions based on their lifestyle, their
Right.
financials. It's our responsibility to help them get through the process.
Right.
And it's a lot. I mean,
It
there's
is a lot.
over 100 steps for real estate agents to
Right.
get to, with their clients, to get
Right.
to a closing. So from beginning to end, if people think, oh yeah, we'll just write up a contract, and then you're just like, well, then what are you going to do? What happens after that?
Right.
So the reason I was bringing this up today is just to put a little bit of clarification.
Right. Yeah. Right.
And just
right.
to
Right.
say,
right.
hey, sellers, in order for a buyer to purchase your home, they're bringing bundles of money.
Yeah.
And if it does come down to your property and somebody else's, they're going to go with somebody else's. So
Right.
you're really lessening your chances of getting multiple offers or even an offer on the table.
Right.
If these buyers are like, no, sorry, I can't afford it. I can't afford to pay my buyer agent, but I want a buyer agent because I don't know what I'm doing. This is not my job.
Right. So how do we? Okay. So we've got these little loan areas. Okay. Let's remove the cash buyers. I think you said they're about 17% cash buyers.
Mm-hmm.
So let's remove those because those don't count.
Okay.
We got 84% conventional,
mm-hmm.
and then we have a small percentage that are FHA,
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Right.
So from a conventional loan standpoint,
yes,
where do you see? How do you see this all playing out? Do you see that as probably not as affected? Do you think that there's still going to be a large effect? Are people going to reduce the size of the home? What do you think that is going to happen as a result, or what are you finding out as a result of what may settle here?
I think buyers are really going to be focused on whether a seller is paying that buyer agent's commission. When you're getting a conventional loan, one of the reasons people do this is because they don't want mortgage insurance. So if you don't want to pay for mortgage insurance and you have just that amount of money to put down to avoid mortgage insurance.
So you don't have the PMI, right?
Yeah. And now you're going to have to pay for a buyer agent on top of that. Well, then what's going to happen?
Right.
It's all affordability.
Well, so this is. Okay.
And I'm not a lender.
Right. Well, you know what though?
It's just I'm just coming from my perspective. Yeah.
Yeah. No. Mm-hmm. We're not lenders. I mean, let's be clear on this. And I've asked the lenders that we've worked with. Right. And some of them, it's kind of interesting where they're at with all this. Right. Some of them have been, well, I don't know that much is going to be affected. Some of them go, well, we're going to have to we're keeping a really close eye on this because we're not sure what we're going to have to do to make adjustments, but clearly we'll probably have to make some sort of an adjustment. Others have said, we're preparing for the worst,
right?
Hoping for the best.
Sure.
Is what we're doing.
Sure.
But the thing that I think we need to caution buyers is you're going to have to build in a cushion. I think that's ultimately the safest play. The safest play for buyers, build in a cushion, because if you find a house that you love,
sure,
and
you
go,
really want that because it's an emotional thing.
It's perfect.
Yeah.
But you're pushing your loan limit, and now you're having to pay an agent compensation out of your pocket. How does that affect your loan limit? Right. So you may have to adjust some expectation. I think what we're trying to say here is, as a buyer, you may need to adjust you're going to have to make some adjustments possibly.
Right. Well, and people have to make adjustments when it comes to interest rates when they fluctuate. So if
as interest rates more than doubled, which is where we're at.
You couldn't afford what you could have a couple of years ago when interest rates were low.
Right. So I have to be able to lower that down.
Right.
To go, okay, maybe I'm not going to afford a $500,000 house. I'm going to have to maybe drop that down to $450,000. Yeah.
Yeah. And
I know that sounds.
It's a tough pill to swallow for a lot of people.
I know that sounds dramatic, but when interest rates doubled, I mean, it was certainly that.
Oh, people were and that's why a lot of buyers decided to take a sidestep from the market just for a little bit, because
right.
for what they were shopping at and their expectation, what they were used to, for what their money could buy, and then all of a sudden they couldn't afford that anymore, and then you're looking at a completely different price point, which doesn't give you what you were initially shopping for,
right.
Which is that's a bit of a shocker.
Well, it is a shocker, and I think I think buyer just has to be really, really prepared that they're, how real estate was done is going to be a little different.
Yeah. And you want the help of a professional. You want somebody experienced. You need somebody who knows what they're doing to get you through the process. And I've said it before, but your expertise and the professionalism is priceless. I mean, if you're going with somebody who doesn't know what they're doing, then they could cost you a fortune.
Right.
So looking at, okay, we thought we could do this on our own, and I've heard this several times. Oh yeah, we can do this. And then they start looking into it, and they're like, but wait,
who negotiates this? Who coordinates this? How do I coordinate the inspection? How do I get this back? How do I negotiate an inspection?
Right.
Can I negotiate the inspection on my own?
Can I get my due diligence money back, even if I find something wrong with the inspection report?
Can I get my due diligence money back? Well, I mean, there is
most common.
Yeah. And what people don't understand is, we also, as real estate professionals, have a fiduciary responsibility to our clients. Right. So that it is ingrained in us that we have a fiduciary responsibility to make sure that we're acting in the best interest of our clients financially. And so, the reason why we have this working with agents agreement that we have in the state of North Carolina that we give to you on the first significant contact, the reason that we have a buyer's agency agreement, the reason why we have you sign all these things is because in the state of North Carolina, as well as a few other states, there's about 13 of us that have been practicing this for a while. The fiduciary responsibility becomes really, really important.
Right.
The NAR settlement does not change our fiduciary responsibility.
No, not at all.
And that's what people have to understand. Our fiduciary responsibility, in fact, not only has it not changed, we've actually stepped it up a little bit more.
Yeah, because we, as buyer agents, can't show you a house unless we have a buyer agency agreement, which is the two major changes that have happened is MLS can't offer compensation for agents, for buyer agents.
They can't talk about it, right?
No, nothing through MLS, which means any of their subsidiary, sorry, that's not the right word, but any of the other websites cannot, who filter through MLS, none of it can.
Third-party websites.
Thank you.
No, it's okay. So so let's talk about the other two groups, because we have seen a little bit of a change between FHA and VA. So recently, VA is going to relax because it has been.
I did read that. I'm not 100% sure. I read that they're in the works of trying to help.
So here's what I understand at this point, and maybe it's the same thing you read too. So what my understanding is that the VA is going to allow, because it used to be that you paid no buyer's agent, but they're going to allow compensating a buyer's agent. They're going to allow it. Now, what that is exactly going to look like, what the parameters of that are, I don't know. And I'm going to probably make the, I hope it's not erroneous, but I think based on if VA is going to do it, then I have to believe that FHA is probably going to do
and I think what we're going to see, we're just going to see change along the way. We're going to see adaptation. We're going to see, okay, where is this really going? Because nobody.
Well, I mean, there's a reason why they kicked it down the road, right? Because
they didn't have everything in place.
Well, not only that, it's just that how do we make this work for everybody? Because it clearly wasn't equitable.
Right.
So the only people who could buy homes were people who had money.
Right.
If you didn't have money, you couldn't buy a home.
Exactly.
Well, that doesn't work very well in terms of what people want in terms of equity. So they are having to make these adjustments, but I don't think, because these are government-based loans,
Mhm.
and now that the Department of Justice is involved, I don't think everybody's communicating very well, which is not a surprise.
Right. And then we have all of our documents. We have the North Carolina,
Right.
We have our own real estate documents that may have to be changed in order to,
Yeah, right.
I mean,
Accommodate whatever changes they're going to come as a result of settlement.
Exactly. And so until we know what those changes are, I mean, we were just rolled out with a new residential property disclosure.
Right.
And that one went from 4 to 6, 7, 8 pages.
Yeah, now it's twice.
It's a lot.
It's almost twice. Well, I remember,
but it's always it's change. But until we know the change that's really coming, and they're saying, okay, the real estate gods, I guess we would call them, when we know, then we can implement the change.
Right.
But right now, some of our documents and paperwork.
Yeah, and I think it's fair to say to you, the audience who's looking at purchasing a home, that's listening or watching us. By the way, thank you. But for those of you who are, I think what you also need to be is you need to be very adaptable at this point, is what we're saying here too, because this thing could get kicked down the road even again. Towards, we might get to August 1st or July, and they may say, you know what, we still don't have it all in place. We may have to move this further back.
Right.
Which, if that happens, nothing changes. Right. Nothing is really changing. So there's a lot that we're educating ourselves about, because this isn't easy, and it's a dilemma for you.
It is. But so going back to what we were first talking about, with at Linda Craft team, we are revamping our presentations. We are revamping everything to make them current. We want people to understand our knowledge, the experience that we have, and how we're going to guide them through the entire process, and to make people aware of all of these changes.
Right.
So with all the research that I've been doing with these presentations, I was like, wow.
Right.
It's a change.
It is a change. Yeah.
But at the same time, I think most sellers may end up paying some compensation to agents. It just depends on their experience. Okay, when you list a home, you get feedback, you get showings. Okay, if you're not offering compensation, I think you'll see right away, or fairly quickly, oh, am I not getting showings because I'm not offering compensation? Yeah, it will be.
Yeah, I think we'll be doing a lot of research on the fly. I think it's going to be very difficult, but we're going to have to do these comparisons. Are sellers who offer compensation for sellers who don't, is there really a big, huge difference? I believe that there will be, but you know what? Statistics will bear that out over the course of time. Also, I think the other thing is going to happen here, and the reason why we're doing this, folks, is because we really want you to be prepared for what is possible to come down the road here, because we don't want you to be surprised going, nobody told us. Well, we're telling you, because this could very well affect you as a buyer. And these are things you need to be thinking about as you head into the buyer, because our inventory is increasing.
That's right. Oh, we are seeing quite a steady increase of listings. And so that's a great point. Yeah. So once we flip, so if we've been in a seller's market for a while, right? Once we start shifting and we go back to the buyer's market, that is going to affect the competition against sellers again. So
Mm.
seller against seller.
Right.
You know,
right.
you paying compensation and you're not, and
Right.
it's going to be more difficult for a seller because you're not going to be in that multiple offer situation.
Yes.
You know, back in the
which made it easy on sellers.
oh, so easy.
Now it's going to be a little different because now you got more competition. You got competition now.
Yes.
Right. And a higher interest rate. We have a question from Tony Fake. He says, hey, great conversation, Jay and Kim. The client needs to ask themselves, can I go head to head with the seller's agent in negotiations? Don't I need a professional when making the largest investment? The hard question is, if we can't negotiate my agent's commission from the seller, should I go it alone or lower my price focus? That's great. It's great. That's great commentary right there.
Yeah.
Right. Because it's exactly what we're talking about. You may
100%.
have to change, you know, what you thought was going to be, I want to go at 500. You may have to go, you know what? I may have to go 450.
Right.
Because I need to build in this little buffer.
And they might, a lot of people will most likely see the need for their realtor, because if you're, how are you going to get into a house if you don't have a real estate agent? You can do it through an open house, or you can do it with a buyer agent. But other than that, you're not going to be able to get through the door. And I don't think a lot of people are aware of that, because for so many years, hey, I want to go see this house. Sure, let's go see this house. Explain agency. You could do a verbal buyer agency agreement. Can't do that anymore. It has to be in writing. So with all of these changes, buyers are most likely now going to be interviewing. Okay, well, if I am going to be paying an agent and I need to be prepared to pay an agent, I want to make sure I have a good one. Yeah, I want to make sure I have someone who knows what they're doing.
Well, and great point. It can't be a verbal. In our state, we can't do anything verbally.
No.
It has to be in writing.
Exactly.
And this is a frustration. I think this might be a little bit of frustration for buyers coming from outside of our state here, trying to understand buyer's agency, is that we have to have it in writing here.
That's right.
Which is, we've run out of time. We could keep going. We could go for another 30 minutes. I'm pretty sure. This is actually fun, right? I mean, having the little conversation was more fun than,
because you really didn't know what direction
I had no idea, but I loved where we went. But it was really a lot of fun. I mean, it was actually a fun conversation. I really enjoyed it because ideas kept sparking. You've been in a real estate professional for how many years now?
Since 2008, very beginning of 2008.
So we're good 16 years.
Yes.
Now.
Sure.
When you
do math, remember?
When you were 16 years old. you were in the real estate. Awesome. 16 years of expert experience. Tell people how they get a hold of you.
You could reach me at, my email address is kim@lindacraft.com, and also via my cell, which is 919-605-6045. And of course, on all social media platforms.
That's awesome. Hey, folks, you know what? Thanks for watching the show. You had a lot of choices. You chose us. We're really, really grateful for that. Give us a thumbs up on YouTube. Awesome. And wherever you're listening to the show or watching the show, write us a little positive review telling us how much you love the show. We'd love to hear from you. If you've got suggestions, let's try that again. If you have suggestions and improvements for the show, we are always welcome to hearing that. So please, write in your suggestions. You can find us Real Estate Right Now show. We would love to hear from you. As I say to you all over the world, you know that it is. Ciao, everybody.